Welcome to Line Talkers Podcast. You know, when I started the show a couple of years ago, my pledge was to record and post shows with a purpose. My mission here has really not been about putting the most episodes out or getting the most downloads, but rather putting out the very best content. Recently, I sat down with what I'm calling exactly that, the very best. Bo Lindell, a lineman in Canada, shares his story with us today, and a story that begins with him starting in this business at age 14. 14. It doesn't really end there, though, as Bo shares his thoughts and views on the trade from yesterday and today, and Bo's an extraordinary human being. He's very smart, he's very hardworking, but most of all, and as we like to say in this business, Bo's just a good dude. As I edited this episode, I noticed his words were very thought out, and he carefully crafted his thoughts into words. For those of you who already know Bo, I'm most confident you would agree with my opinion here, and for those who don't yet know him, well, here's the guy behind Locked and Tagged, Bo Lindell. So I'm here today with Bo Lindell. He's up in British Columbia. So we have a mutual friend, Raylyn Hawko. I interviewed her a year ago on Lineman Appreciation Day, and she spoke very highly of you, and so I reached out to you, and we set this up, and so I'm very excited to sit down and be able to talk to you today. Bo, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so about me, I grew up in a small town in Inner Lake, Manitoba, kind of like a power lineman capital of Canada. There's a ton of linemen that come out of there. It's crazy. If you're either building power line or you're working on gravel roads, actually. But yeah, there's lots of linemen that come out of there. I have no kids. I'm not married. I have a girlfriend. I'm living out in BC right now.
What got you in the power line business, and what year did you start in the trade?
So my first power line job, I was actually 14. There's a company out of Manitoba. I went and worked for them with my father, Calvin Lindell. He got me on a job there. I was 14 years old. So we were doing concrete foundations for a monopole line outside of Toulon, I believe was the town. So I went away with him to work. I'm not even sure how long it was, but it would have been in 2004. I went away with him, and then there was a break in school or something that I was working with him. When I first started, I was so green, so young. I didn't really know exactly what was going on, but I knew you had to keep moving. You had to listen. You had to, watch out for everything. And when the concrete showed up, then that's when you really had to get moving and pay attention. When I had to go back to school, actually, my dad, he was at the door. I was up early to go back to school, and he was at the door. He was going to head out to work. And he asked me, he said, do you want to just come to work and quit school? And I looked at him, I was like, what? He said, do you want to just, quit school, start making money? He's like, you're probably going to be building power line anyways. He's like, do you want to quit right now and just start work? I looked at him and I said, well, no, I better finish my schooling and graduate and everything and at least get my high school. And he said, okay, are you sure? I said, yep. And then he went out the door and went to work.
And you started in the trade when you were 14?
That was my first job,
wow,
yeah.
Wow.
But I went back to school, and then when I was 15, I ended up back during the summer break. I ended up back out building power line again, got on a job, a bigger company, and I was only 16, so I don't know how they did it, but I was actually working in CNRL in the oil sands up in Fort McMurray, and I knew you had to be 18 to work there. So anyways, we were up there working, and we were on underground doing street lighting cable and that, so we were pulling out the cables and running that, working in the substations, doing the gravel kind of. I was more of a labor, but, laying cable and whatnot. Continued that, ended up working about a month into the school year. Then I had to get back to school to go finish. Went back to high school. I actually finished early. I finished half the year early because I wanted to get out back to work because I was liking the money. So I finished early, and then I was back on the line. And I would have been, 17 then when I got back out onto the line.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's quite a story, starting at 14, working summers, I know I've interviewed quite several people, talked to some people that have started as summer helpers, working at the utility. But that 14, I think that's a record for me. Yeah, I got a 14-year-old here at the house. Maybe I can send him up your way this summer.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
matter of fact, I might can send him tomorrow. I don't know if you're available or not, but
Oh yeah. I have to check on the COVID thing. It's still kicking around here. It won't go away
yeah.
apparently.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So since you've been in the trade, and I'd like to ask a lot of people this, what changes have you seen that you think are significant since you've been in the trade?
I would say the culture's taken a huge change. I know when I first was getting into it, I was always working away. I always thought that when it was just the culture there, if you weren't there for at least 6 weeks, you were looking kind of soft, right? There's that. The way people talk to each other felt when I started too. The guys I was with, they were hard asses. You could get called every name in the book, and it would just roll off you, right? That was just the way it was with some guys. There was that. Nowadays, that culture's changed in that sense. The other part of the change is the attitude towards safety, training, all that. When I started, it seemed like if you had to do training, it was kind of a pain in the ass and this and that. Orientations, that type of thing, they were kind of pain in the ass. But nowadays, I think people appreciate training. You promote it. That's one thing you want to do. You want to get your guys trained. Guys love training. It's just being proactive. See it a lot more. Yeah, the culture's changed a lot. There isn't yelling, and up here anyways, it's changed a lot in that sense. It's a lot more professional nowadays. The culture is a lot more towards safety, professionalism, getting your home life in. That's what we're out doing it for, right? We want to do the job to have a better home life. We love the work, but it's the money in that. That's why we hope to have a better home life. And we're away long enough that we should be able to have somewhat of a home life when we get the chance.
Yeah, the culture really has changed. There's some things that, I grew up at a small utility in Tennessee, a municipal, probably 400 employees at the time. The culture, what I came up in the IBW versus what it is now, there's some things I'll probably take to my grave.
Yeah.
that went on when I was in the crew, just so you know.
Yeah. I think I got some of the same things. Yeah.
It was, I remember one time I was told they were giving me a hard time at lunch or something. I can't remember what it was. And I told them I wasn't playing their games. And they said, yeah, you're playing our games. You just suck at it and you'll learn to play our game. And your life will be a lot easier, So I took that advice and I became a terror. I was like the terror apprentice. Like I loved to do everything I possibly could to run my mouth, get in trouble, get punished, and love it, And I was always told if you're going to be mouthy, you got to be able to produce, And so I learned really quick that if I was the hardest working person around, that I could pretty much get away with a lot. And once you got in the trade and once you got out of high school and stuff, did you, tell me about, did you travel? Did you, I imagine you've probably worked all over Canada, and tell me a little bit about your career moves.
I'd say pretty much right when I started, I was working away. So like I said, I was from Manitoba and I worked all over Canada. Before I got my ticket, I was in Ontario, up in the Yukon, then I was in Alberta, BC, traveled kind of all over before I even got my ticket. Yeah, it was mostly transmission work, and I know mostly with transmission you're generally traveling all around, on and off. When there was slow times in the transmission, I was on some distro crews, some underground plowing fiber, stuff like that. It was quite the experience. Ever since then, and like I said, I haven't stopped traveling. I've been on the road, my whole career. I think there was one period of about 9 months to a year where I made the move to another company and I built a substation. I was living in Winnipeg at the time, and so that's about the only time I was really ever working from home where I got to go home at the end of the workday. But yeah, it's been on the road ever since I started.
I went on the road in 2004, stayed on the road for about 6 years. Being on the road until you've done it, a lot of the utility guys can't relate until you do it, but it's sort of a miserable life because when you're at home, you can't wait to get back on the road, and then 2 hours being gone away from home, you can't wait to get back home again. Like it's like you never feel like you're at home. You never feel at home.
That's one thing too I found when you are away and you do those long shifts, you get bushed. I remember the one time I was bushed, your mind's not all there. So when you get home, it's not even like you're home. And I remember the one time I got home, I was sitting on my couch in my house and I was looking at the clock and I didn't even know really what to do with myself. And then that's when I kind of realized how bushed I was. I was like, said to myself, I'm like, you better get doing something. You can't just, sit around and not know what to do. So then I ended up pulling out my car that I had in high school there and working on the engine and that, and then it snapped me out of it. Right, I was back doing something. So I'd say if anyone ever gets bushed, that's the thing to do. Just make sure there's something to do, go do it, and you'll snap out of it. Something you enjoy.
Mm-hmm. And that something to do is not going to the bar.
No. Get in a fight then.
Yeah, because we all know folks in the trade that tend to do that a little much when they're away. You mentioned, you talked about training and safety. Where do you think we're at right now in the industry with safety? And I'm asking you this because I'd like to know your perspective because, from what I've learned in the last year and a half is things are different in Canada than they are in the United States. And within the United States, they're different on the East Coast than they are on the West Coast. So I'm just curious to see, what safety means to you and what you see in the trade now and maybe where we're headed.
From what I see now, up in Canada, it's pretty much the same across Canada. We have a lot of rules, our tie-off, our limits of approach, our grounding. We have all those rules and they're pretty stern. They're all there for a reason. Everyone knows them. Like it's been around long enough now. Everyone knows the rules and that. The change I see now that's happening, like there was that change at a certain point, but now where the change is happening and it's a good change and it's probably the most important change, and it's a change that I try to promote myself the most, is the culture of taking the time, letting people know, take the time to do the training, the positive attitude towards the safety culture. I've seen it on jobs. One of the last jobs I was on was actually looking after it. Our whole team, our management team, our safety guy, everyone was in that mindset to have a good safety culture. Went a long way. It drove right down to everyone on the job, and everyone had a positive attitude. Everyone was doing their equipment checks. They were following the rules. They were checking their safety gear. People were taking pride of it, and we were promoting, giving the good jobs on it and that. And, it goes a long way, especially when there's newer guys coming up. We had some green guys there, and that's the best place to learn is the culture from their leaders and their foremen, promoting that safety culture to take the time and do your check, watch out